Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. So, we're going to talk about today the getting over the difficulty of understanding life is not the physical. We live in a life that is constantly hitting our face because we are physical entities. And everything we do is physical. Kind of. But we're going to go through that and talk about that. And this is the problem that I've been wrestling with for many years here, and finally I've been able to shed the stupidity of that and move into the real energetic reality of life. Everything is vibrations, everything's energy. Some people like to say frequencies or other things, but it goes very much deeper than that. Frequencies are made up of basically occulton fields, which create everything that mix with psions to create then lower vibrational energies, which are frequencies, etc. The highest energies are informational energetic fields that are created kind of with the intermix of the universe. And we talk about all this in my upcoming new courses I've talked about some time. I'm really hoping to get these out very quickly to people in the next couple of months. The bottom line is I'm the only one who's really figured out all this stuff. There's some good basic information out there, but most of it is pretty bad and scattered. People still don't get it. People get caught up in a lot of different terminologies. I don't think they really understand. And the more I contact people, the more I find how little they know. Now, everybody, some might not say everybody, but some people have a little bit of the knowledge, and it certainly helps for those who really know what's going on, like myself. It helps me put the pieces together and understand on a deeper level. But it's very difficult for anybody to understand. That's why I'm changing my entire product line over to things that are just energetic in nature. You don't need anything physical. You don't need a physical tachyon neutrino graviton cell. All you need is the energetic symbol of that, used in a very particular way. We use the symbol of it, which is a code or a series of numbers. And when people think a number, we're counting here. No, it's an image. The numbers represent a physical form. This is also stimulated by a physical sigil form. Everything in life is made up of sigils. It's not made up of what you name it. So this is important to understand as well. And this is all covered in my subtle energy physics course. To understand the nature of how everything works. So if you have to understand that if you're going to harness these energies and use them. And it doesn't matter what level it is. How can you make a machine to use a particular type of energy or produce a particular type of energy when you don't understand it? And everybody in this field, otherwise known as the really bad term of radionics, is totally and completely lost. It's been around for at least 100 years now. We could really go back several thousand years to subtle energies that are used in ancient mystery schools, etc., but they've gone absolutely nowhere. Speaking of that, here's my latest acquisition. This is a Mexican-made Bruce Copen unit. It's got digital inputs. It's got your two plates. And while it's not as good as the machines that Copeland made himself, it certainly is a cool looking machine. And we're going to go into this and review this in a future video here. And of course, in-depthly and what's inside is all left there for all access and Patreon members. These are a special, you're never going to see the kind of stuff that we offer unless you are part of Patreon and All Access, so you can actually see the guts of these things and get uncensored talks as well. So all this is part of the process. But here's another exciting machine. This is digital. We are testing some digital machines here as well. Some ones that are from England and other places to see exactly what they can do as well. As I said, I'm open to anything that works. You got something that works, we'll use it. But I'm not going to live in your delusional world. And the people involved in this world in general, it really doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you've got 99.9% of corrupt, evil, rotten people who really only care about themselves and their little families and will cut your throat, cripple you, work for criminals, murder you for their own personal gain or because they're scaredy cats. Um, the people within this industry are the lowest life scum you're going to ever meet in the radionic industry, which is virtually nothing but Satanists and now government agent Satanists that are out there. It's really pathetic of what goes on out there. And of course, if you know something, and of course you are the authority on something, well, they're scare them because they want to be sick with giant heads and say they can cure anybody. The kind of scum that is out there is really shocking. And that's the reality you're dealing with. But, that's part of this. If everything was just go to school, read the book, contact these people, and your life goes perfect, well, what would be the point of anything? This is the interesting philosophical understanding. I don't know if it's philosophical. I hate to use that term because it tends to mean not practical. It is not. This is the way life runs. If you understand how life runs, then you're able to survive, prosper, and eventually get the hell out of here. So we need to understand that. We need to, the biggest thing for everybody, and I've been fighting this for about 30 years now, is the getting over the physical. And I had many people talk to me, particularly one bozo, a low-level guy, but it's, I'd never buy a non-electric unit because they don't do nothing. Well, of course, you cater to the public to a certain degree. What Bruce Copeland did. Here's one of his units, and it's still, these dials don't have any electricity going through them. There's nothing happening here. This is just a number generator. The bottom line is that no radionic units do anything. They don't produce any units. And again, let's get this clear for you bubba heads out there. Rife or frequency machines are frequency machines that put out Hertzian frequencies. Radionic machines put out a high level consciousness energy. It's not even apples and oranges. It's hippopotamuses and battleships. That's how different it is. But you don't quite understand that because you've never been trained properly, and you're probably following some foolish person. You got a computerized SC monkey machine from somebody that does nothing. So all of this stuff that you're proud to stand up and support, a lot of you out there, is going to lead you down the path to destruction. But that's your own personal choice. But the bottom line, this is all part of this. Don't think that the road to the highest ascension plane is going to be a road that has no bumps in it, that has no ditches, that has no places to break your ankles in, that is a smooth road that is paved wonderfully, and you glide along thinking happy thoughts, peaches and cream and wonderful things. Oh yes. No, that's not how life is. Life is the opposite, and people that have easy lives are generally morons. Life is easy. Everything is perfect. It's wonderful. Let's support all the criminals because my life is good. So this is the way it goes in life in general. So that's the way it is. But part of this challenge that you're going to run into life, and you're going to run into it, you're going to get into, if nothing else, health problems, which will knock you down and probably knock you out and kill you, as it has done your pets, your family, etc. Because the people in charge of all that stuff are there to bleed the money out of you. They have no concern whatsoever. And if they can do an extra operation to kill you and get away with it, that's fine with them. It's another $100,000 in their pocket. So the whole idea is that's how it works. And if you don't understand that, well, you're a special kind of stupid. So the whole idea is that we have to understand this kind of path out there. But for those who are seekers, those who really get it, and there are people out there, and I know several people that seem to be good people that get it, and they are changing their lives. And I've been doing this for 40 years of changing people's lives, moving them away from negativity and evil and Satanism into a higher, better path. So I've been doing this for years, and I'm happy that I've helped so many people in general. But whatever. And it's been a constant fight. And of course, the average person out there who continues to work for evil makes the job much harder. But that's another. But one of the things we run into when it comes to all these areas, and of course, we have the criminal scientists, that make bombs and weapons and um, reverse engineer, anti gravity, and all the mind reading tools. Yeah, all them scientists who sell out for a couple of $100,000 a year to make destructive tools. Yeah, yeah, take care of their family. I need a new Volvo. I want a bigger house. I want alligator shoes. So this isn't a point of surviving, and of course they work against anybody who comes out with something of importance and will kick them to the curb literally, get them banned and get them on the street so they can destroy them. That's the world you're dealing with, and this goes with anywhere. So some people are able to rise above it, but generally they're all corrupt and they're going to feed you garbage. And the only person that doesn't do it, the only person that knows what's going on is myself. And it's just as simple as that. And there's no egotistical. That's a statement of fact. I've read and have contact with just about everybody in the industry. And there are some people that have some interesting stuff, but most of them have absolutely nothing. And they know nothing of what they're talking about whatsoever. They've done no research. They have taken no courses. They have investigated nothing. But they want to become experts and write their own little crap books. So the whole idea is that that's what. And you, as a person out there, have to wind your way through the mazes, through those giant trap doors, which you'll fall in. And if you fall in one of those trap doors, you're lucky if you only lose money. You'll probably lose your life and your soul. That's the way of the world. So we have to keep that in mind. We have to understand the bigger picture here, which is a really amazing thing. So, here's one of our great new radionic mugs. Look, if you're not into this 100%, you don't have mugs, you don't have t-shirts, that has nothing to do with selling anything. You're either into it or not. I'm a little tired of people that don't seem to get everything they need to be on this amazing path and to be directed by a person of such a high level empowerment. So, all of this is something that we need to keep in mind as the bigger picture. Now, what is the big thing that hits us in the face? As I mentioned, I talked to this guy, and he wanted to get bigger and bigger at that time, which was 25 years ago, bigger and bigger amplifiers. But these were solid-state amplifiers. At that time, I was not overly versed in tube amplification and other things. There probably was tubes back then, but as they are today, they're very expensive. Of course, he got a giant amplifier that was for a rock group in a stadium. We got a couple of these, hooked him up, and it did increase. He fed his machines into that, and it did increase his manifestation by a certain amount. But, we're always looking for the ultimate. Now, solid state amplification just doesn't work well, and you can keep adding on to it, and you're going to be moving up tiny bits. If you really want to add on to something, get an expensive tube amplifier. And we'll be offering some of this stuff in the future as well. These are lifetime tools. You don't want to invest in it. You want to spend $3,000, $4,000 on a pay and golf clubs, golf memberships, tennis balls. Ew, we love those tennis balls. They're so bouncy. And you can spend all your time hitting balls over a little net or chasing a white little ball on grass. Why hit it if you're going to chase it? I don't get it, Dr. Thor. Well, that's the way it works. It's an old Scottish game, You drink the whiskey, you follow that little white ball on the grass. Ooh, it's wonderful. So the whole idea is that maybe they should learn how to make good scotch, and then we can start from that. So the whole idea is that all of that goes on there is part of this. So the physical, everything's physical. I can't believe that the energies are there. I can't say it. I can't grab it. Can't hold it. So this is the conundrum, because we are living in a very physical world. And people say, well, it's not a physical world. Yeah, well, it's true it's not a physical world on a higher level of consciousness. If I take your head and I smash it into a brick wall, you will understand the world is physical. Now, that doesn't mean everything is physical. Those bricks are made up of an energetic vibrational field that forms that. But it does form something physical that will knock you out. You hit somebody in the head with a brick, Dr. Thor, I think they would die. Well, you're right, dumb guy. That's right. So it is a physical reality on that. And this is what confuses us. But you don't master the world of bricks by mastering the fact of how to make them. You understand what makes those, and this is what we work with nanotechnologies and other things, is that we figure out what really encompasses the structure of the brick, right from the initial manifestation of the clay or the cement that that brick is made of. So here we get, as we go back in the process of making something, it becomes less and less physical to the point there is no physical. They're informational energetic fields that are formed together with psions. This creates physical matter. So it's just as simple as that. People can complicate it all they want. It's provable in every single aspect. I can meter things. If I had even a tenth, a hundredth of a tenth of a percent of the billions of dollars that these boob had the world problems we saw. But that's not what this reality is about. This reality is about finding solutions to problems. So that's the whole idea. And recognizing who out there has this. I talk to people and you give them the truth of the ages and they spit on it. Well, I spit on them. So, the whole idea is that we need to understand that. So, if you're going to make something, you have to get from the end. Now, everything we make in life comes from ingredients. And we can talk about ingredients. I don't know what people make in their life. I think people understand cooking symbologies, pseudonyms, whatever you call it. Symbologies. So the whole idea is that if you're, let's say, we'll use the reference of baking a cake. Okay? Now, when you make a cake, and this could be anything, a soup or pancakes, what do? Well, yeah, you get the pancake and you eat it. Well, you had to make the pancake, didn't you? Well, how did you make that? Or a cake. Generally, there's flour, there's eggs, there's sugar. So you're taking all these ingredients, which are kind of semi-solid. I mean, they are physical matter, eggs, sugar, etc. But they're not the finished product, are they? So you have to not only combine them properly, by the way. You just go, hey, 2 pounds of sugar, half a cup of flour. That don't make a cake. That makes a giant mess. So what you've got to do is make it properly. And you have to follow the instruction. And then even after you've done all that, you've combined it and made this soupy mixture there, you got to pour it in a special dish, a baking pan. And then you have to do what? You have to bake it, meaning you put it in an oven that is a heat box for a particular period of time at a particular heat setting. This is pretty complicated stuff if you think about it. We do this without even thinking about it because it's a relatively easy process, and we got box cakes now. It says it on the package. Didn't you see that, Dr. Thor? So the whole idea is that these are the kind of things out. So we take it for granted. But think of the process there. And then people don't extrapolate on where all this comes from. Well, somebody had to make that sugar. We had to grow the plant. We had to plant the seeds, grow the plant, had to be watered, harvested. It's a momentous task. And of course, there are billions of these little roaches out there called humans to do all these tasks. But think about that. People don't understand the process to have anything built. You like your phone and your computer? Well, somebody had to dig all that metal up, had to put it in melt it so then it could be formed into other things. Somebody had to make the processors. It just goes on and on and on, not to mention the hundreds of years of engineering that goes behind all these things. So it's a very complicated process. So think that everything is just physical is ridiculous. First of all, just the engineering behind things had to take mental energy and had to take literally hundreds of years to fit. What is electricity? Well, somebody had to figure that out. Then somebody had to figure out how to use it, how to do all this stuff. It's quite amazing, even in our primitive understanding, what's there. And of course, everybody on this planet matters because we have special metals and other things are only located in other areas. Everybody has their input. But no, we don't think that's good enough. We want to enslave people, get it cheaply. And of course, we can only do is kill each other. That should sum up the reason why we never get anywhere. It's amazing we've got as far as we have, but all of our money is spent on killing each other, and that's the reality of it, which seems to be the most stupidest thing. But people get off on that because there's lots of evil, rotten people that like that. So, just the way it is. But the point is that's a very unphysical process. You want to have a certain metal to create batteries and everything else. These precious earth metals, all the things that go into these things, even things like gold, which doesn't come from our planet apparently, that comes from outer space and crashed into the earth. So the whole idea is all these things are quite an amazing thing. And we put all these things together to make particular products. But the essence of all this is it had to start with an idea. Now that idea was what? Physical? Can you think of something and it's physical? Can you take an idea and smash it in somebody's head? Knock them out with it? Well, you may knock a lot of people out with wisdom and logic because they're not used to that kind of force in their peanut brain. So you give them an idea that really is something of a high level, and it's probably going to knock them down. And they're going to, that can't happen. It's not real. Get out of my school. Oh, I've got this wheel here made out of rock. So the whole idea is that that's where we come from. So, in ancient societies where things weren't as manufactured, people looked at energies. Now, there's no electrical cords on any pyramids or other structures or anything we've actually found, while some people claim electrical energies were generated, which I don't really believe that because it's ignorant. Hertzian field energies is really, it's trash can energy. Just like burning oil. Yeah, let's burn some oil. Yeah. Well, it was seeping out of the ground. I threw my cigarette on it and it caught fire. Well, we can do something with that, huh, Billy? So the whole idea is that these are the kind of things that happen. So it's idiot science. And that's why you never see it in any ancient things. They understood electrical current. We have found the basic energy generation through galvanic electricity using zinc and copper. It's amazing they had the Baghdad battery, as they call it, thousands of years ago, but it went nowhere because it was kind of stupid because they didn't have any. I can't plug my toaster in. I don't like these batteries. So the whole idea is that this is, of course, the conflicting of ancient advancedness and their primitiveness of it. But I think that having electrical fields and plugging things into walls and everything else, I think that's pretty primitive. I think the older ways were better. And they learned to use ether energies, atmospheric energies to power lights and all sorts of other things. This was stated by Napoleon's troops when they went into Egypt and found odd lighting devices. Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Why would you do that? Okay. Now, thinking of all that goes into that, we need to understand how primitive that is because you're thinking on the physical again. But everything is physical again. Well, it isn't, and that's what I'm trying to. And this took me a long time to fully break from. I've been breaking for a while, and every time I go down a road, something happens that forces me on the proper road. That's what a person who's reached the state of gnosis happens to them all the time. You want to go down roads that the idiots go down, well, they're going to throw up barriers so you can't do that. That's the way it all works. So that has happened, and I'm converting everything I'm doing over to energetic models because what are you using? So let's talk about, as I've mentioned, things like memory cartridges or even people that like crystals and stones, something that a lot of people do, including myself. I love crystals, quartz crystals, how beautiful they are. But, there's really not all that much energy there. Or is there? Well, there is a lot of energy there, but it's locked into you. So if I was to take a perfectly charged quartz crystal and shove it on your forehead, all you'd have is a big lump and possibly breaking the skin. Did the energy from that crystal enter you? No, it didn't. It's locked in there. Just like you would take a particular USB memory stick and place it on your hair. Now, place it on your computer, dude. There, get the internet. No, can't you get the energy out of that stick? I placed it right on your computer. Well, the bottom line is that you don't access the energy then. How do you access the information on a stick? Well, you have to plug it into your computer. You have to take it from the physical and make it into the energetic so the information can go from the physical in there, just like a crystal. Now, crystals are hard to access those energies. That's why people have lots of crystals, including myself. And quite frankly, I don't think they've done much of anything. You got to know how to take the energy out of them. One of the ways is placing a crystal in a glass of pure water, putting it in the sun, and then the photons pick up the energy within the crystal, move it into the water, and then you can use it. That's genius, Dr. Thor. Well, the bottom line is that's right. So again, if you're wanting to work from the non-physical, the energetic, well, you can't use physical items. So if you put an actual physical item, like a crystal, on the actual machine or whatever you're doing, you're getting nothing from it. You need the energetic nature of that. That's why we're using our special system now, which is basically special sigils combined with a special number code to represent that energy form. And then it's empowered through sound energy. And we put these into, quote, traditional CDs. It's a great way to get all this in one package inexpensively. Yeah, I could make it special and expensive. Then they would call me government. So the whole idea is that these are great systems and people can't get confused with that. And I don't think that the, quote, technology of DVDs and CDs are something that is outdated. They're great. They're basically light. They're thin. They last for a long time. But no, I want you to put it in the cloud. So anytime there's a storm, what happens is you lose your cloud stuff and you don't have nothing physical. Well, I'm a fan of that and things that really tend to be a little bit too much. And maybe it would be a good idea to have some sort of DVDs and stuff that are not physical. Just like I have digitalized my entire library. I mean, why have thousands of books that weigh tons that are nothing more a brick on your back? And to a certain extent, these are. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about actual energetic tools that you need to have the physical tool there. So the CD has a special musical code in it that triggers the sigil on the front of it that is then further triggered by the actual number code. So this is a very high level of producing things, and only I know how to do it. You have to use special sigils, which is not the picture you see, because these sigils are a combination of, could be hundreds of sigils in there. The number is something that only I can get properly because I'm the only one that has the skill, and the actual sounds that go in there, which are masked in many different ways, are only known by me as well. So this is high technology, and you just can't bring this technology to any fool and have them copy it or make it. You have to know what you're doing, and it has to be done correctly, like any high manufacturing art, particularly when it gets into the subtle energy physics area. So I like to call it subtle physical energies, because these are physical energy forms. You can feel them, you can see them in motion, you can see them change matter. All of this can be demonstrated and demonstrated fairly easily as you see how this stuff starts to change your life. And ultimately, life is not about using tools alone, it's about interacting with tools. So generally, that's how we do everything, is we interact with them. So as these particular type of entities, we have the capacity to make tools. With tools, we make machines. But none of this stuff is working as an entity unto itself, even though the dark evil side of us wants to automate things because we're so lazy and evil. But automation means corruption. Ultimately, there has to be a guidance by human capacity, who can make judgments based on higher concepts as well, even though we can guarantee they're going to make judgments based on their lower self. So the Japanese are making robots to do things, but what type of robot do you think they're making first? Sex robots, of course. So the whole idea is that I ought to show you where the Japanese come from. But the point is that that's the reality of it, and so typically common. And considering the massive relationships, you really can't blame them. But the bottom line is that this is the kind of reality that is out there. So we have to keep that in mind. So the more we stay with the physical, we keep fighting to make things more and more physical. We want physical this, physical that. Well, we got to have, it doesn't work unless there's an electrical appliance connected to it. This kind of psychological crutch is ultimately your undoing, not your empowerment. Most of the things that have worked at very high levels, and we're talking high levels. Now, when you use frequencies and Rife machines and you're pumping Hertzian frequencies into people, this is not high level stuff. Of course, it's a step above the chemical, which is how the medical industry works. It's a chemical industry. You combine chemicals together, otherwise known as medications. You take these, and there's a practicality of that as well. So, there's a place for everything, but it is a chemical compound. It's a powder that goes into your body. Ultimately, that stuff doesn't work on the chemical basis. It works on the energetic. So it's not the pills you take that work. It's the energy that it produces within your body. It breaks down and down and down until it's broken down into an energy, and that's what your body uses. It's not the chemicals. The chemicals produce energy. So we have to understand that because, again, it's a primitive way of looking at things. Well, it's only this level. Again, that's the physical. If you're looking at it as a chemical to produce something within your body, you're missing the point. So the whole idea with subtle physical physics is the fact that we are going to the essence of everything, and that's what we have to do. I mean, we can have endless compounds of chemicals and frequencies and other things, but they all come from the energetic. And of course, many great men have stated this. It's nothing new. I've refined a lot of things. I don't know if I've come up with anything entirely new, but I take proven technologies that have been proven to work and make them work better and refine them. And that's pretty much what the world does. Very few new inventions out there. Everything is a variance of something else, particularly those people that tend to have a lot of patents in the world, certain countries. Well, it's not new information. I made a better lock. Well, it's still a lock. So the bottom line is there's nothing new happening. And we have very little new discoveries out there, period. And if they are something profound, you can guarantee it'll be buried. That's the nature of corrupt, evil people. So, and that's just the way the world is. You accept it or you be miserable all the time. So I've got to the point where I find it amusing, even though at times enraging, but yeah, that's life. So the whole idea is that we have to understand that everything is based in this physical reality, which turns into the vibrational, energetic, subtle physical physics. Subtle energy, physical physics. How is that? I'm still working on that concept because it is very physical, subtle energies. People think, oh, there's nothing there. Well, anybody who thinks that water is not strong, heavy, and dominating can say, well, it's not physical, it's just water. You ever get hit by a wave? So the whole idea is you'll find how physical it really is. So we have to change the way we're thinking. But ultimately, we want to harness and manipulate the energies that create everything instead of trying to take physical things, combining them together and having them affecting. Well, let's start from the ground up. Let's build the energy from that. And of course, that's what and again, the terrible term radionics does. That's why radionics is a spiritual path. It teaches you all of these concepts if you're doing it right, which nobody is but me, of course. So everybody gets caught up in this because they don't want to believe in that and they don't have the courage to stand by it. They haven't done the research. They want to buy into what bogus institutions of pseudo scientific knowledge has given them. Caltech, MIT. Well, what have they ever done for anybody? So the bottom line is whatever they've come up with or whatever's going on is always highly suppressed by the same old, very evil people that are involved in everything. So getting away from the actual physical is what you have to get away from in your mind. Now, we're going to pick this up in part 2 here.